Hi, I'm Linda OJ.
And I'm Aaron Espindola.
Welcome to the newest episode of the Next Gen Business Podcast.
Let's go.
The Next Gen Business Podcast is produced by the Small Business Community Network. Visit them online at www.sbcncanada.org.
Aaron, I'm so happy to see you because you've moved into your new place with your friends, haven't you?
Oh yeah, it's been a very busy week. A lot of packing that we did, and I'm finally getting a little situated now. But actually went to Costco, and we all know how those Costco runs go. Usually you go in thinking that you're not going to spend that much, but for some reason you always come out with the biggest bill.
So, luckily, it's COVID and this pandemic, and we're all locked in. Otherwise, you'd have been having a big party, and you'd all be getting really merry and annoying the neighbours. So, I guess you've got to be good for now, haven't you?
Yeah, exactly. We have to just with my roommates right now. We're just talking yesterday and just having some fun. But we played some euchre, but it was just us four. So
It's good to know that as a student and a business owner yourself, you've left your parents and everybody behind, and you're making it on your own. So let's see how that. Now, will you do your own laundry, or will mommy do it?
no, I'll do my own laundry. We actually going to go buy some Tide Pods, so I'm all set. I'm all set for the year.
Now, I will tell you, I bought those maybe before COVID, and I must have been unlucky because they all stuck together in the box. So tight, people. I didn't complain. I just bought the liquid stuff because it got me so annoyed because if I pull them apart, they all went everywhere. And I didn't want to use two. So I don't like those, but that's just me. So we better get on, and we better introduce our wonderful guest because I've dragged him here now. And I know he's a very busy man. So Dennis Lewis is a wonderful guest on our show tonight. He's a freelance copywriter and he's a Brit, just like me, now living in Canada. So you've got two of us tonight, Aaron. You've got two with the Brit accent. So welcome, Dennis. Thanks for coming along. We're really happy to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
And how long have you lived in Canada now?
On and off for about 22 years now. There was a while when I lived outside of Canada. I was working abroad for about 15 years, but I came back to Canada and I'm enjoying it so far.
I should think so. We're lovely as Canadians, aren't we, Aaron?
Yeah, it's pretty nice here. So
You first.
sorry, did you manage to go to any of like the ski hills around here?
Not in Ontario. I've been to the ski hills in BC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Those are very nice.
But that was a
I've never
long time
been.
ago before COVID.
Before COVID. So whereabouts in England are you from, Dennis? Just so our viewers, because we, might have some Brits listening to us as well.
I'm from London. From South London, to be specific, Southwest London. I grew up, I was born in Wandsworth, but I grew up mostly in Stockwell, Peckham, and Camberwell, and basically Southwest London and Southeast London.
No, you should go, Aaron, when COVID's over. London's amazing, it really is. But then again, Birmingham, my hometown, is amazing too. So the reason we invited you along tonight, and I know Aaron's very interested in this as well, is because actually myself and you, Dennis, were having a chat about diversity and inclusion. And I think, Aaron, we all have a different definition about what those two things mean. So I think it's going to be a really, really good discussion. And for instance, Aaron, at college, university, do you think the students understand that, these two things might be different when they do go out into the workplace?
Yeah, I think for my generation at least, we started school, and from the very beginning they would always talk to us about making sure that everyone feels included and that everyone has like the same opportunity. So just growing up, we've always been exposed to that like diversity type of talk. So I feel like we do have a lot of that in our generation.
I agree with you. Whereas in my generation, it wasn't so much focused on, and basically it was a different life. I just want to, I did what you did, Aaron, and I googled some stuff. He's always amazing, and I go, oh, I didn't do that because I know everything. So this is what I think. This is why I chose this bit, and this is when I'm going to come to you, Dennis, and ask your opinion. So put simply, diversity in the workplace means that a company hires a wide range of diverse individuals, and diversity is often misconstrued as socially multicultural matters. However, it also applies to diversity of gender, race, ethnicity, I can't say that, age, sexuality, language, educational background, and so on. So if you got that with my stuttering and not saying the words properly, is this true that in the modern workplace, sometimes it gets a bit misconstrued, or, people sometimes get it wrong, do you think?
Yes, I do think that some people do misconstrue it. I think it's also partly because you could say that it's partly a question of people with previous generations having the kind of worldview of their generations, which handled these matters in a very different way from the way things are done now. It could be a function of that, but I also think a lot of it stems from the fact that the people, the proponents of these new diversity, equity, and inclusion measures often have a very incoherent and sometimes unsatisfactory way of kind of explaining, or kind of like explaining the rationale, or kind of developing the foundations of what these policies are based on. The reason I say that is because these policies have basically been enacted in academia, which I have a lot of background in, being a university instructor for many years. And then they've gradually filtered their way into the corporate boardrooms. And I think we are so very, very sensitive to any issue related to race, related to gender. Now it's very much, we're very much kind of sensitized to issues related to gender identity or transgenderism and stuff like that, to the point where I feel that sometimes we're not as critical or as kind of moderate in the way we address these issues in the workplace as we could be. I say that because I've seen the adoption of these policies, say, in the university. The last job I held in the university was teaching at the University of Waterloo. And definitely the universities in Canada, and I think also in the UK and in the States, are at the forefront of this movement to, create a much more inclusive, a much more diverse workplace.
That makes a lot of sense, but just over to Aaron a minute. This is probably making a lot of sense to you, as you say, because at your college you're very much in tune with this kind of thought process, Aaron?
Yeah. At my college, they do a lot of this. And then as well as my friends, I know he goes to the University of Toronto, and they actually have workshops too. So he's part of a lab, and they do like a workshop making sure that everyone in the lab feels included, and that they understand that they're able to reach out if they don't feel included or anything like that. And yeah, so it does make sense with what Dennis is saying.
That makes sense. And I'll just jump in quickly before you carry on, Dennis, because again, the key areas, and I think this is what you're touching on as well, of diversity and their characteristics include culture, race and ethnicity, disability, religious or spiritual beliefs, gender, including transgender, intersex, generational, sexual orientation, sexual identity, lesbian, gay, bisexual, heterosexual. I don't know if I've missed anything out. Sorry if I have. So what I'm seeing is Aaron's generation seems ready for for going into the workplace. From what you've said, Dennis, the universities here in the UK are all, well, no, the academia were already ready for it. The universities are now, been working on it for quite some time. So where do you see this going through the generations, Dennis? Do you think, how old are you again, Erin? You're such a baby. Okay, so so where do you think this is going, Dennis? Do you think this generation is prepared well, or will they find it very different, even though they've been prepared at college, do you think?
Well, I think my feeling is working with people of Erin's generation, both in university as a teacher, and then also I also worked for an IT company here in the Kitchener-Waterloo region, and I have the opportunity to work with many people of Erin's generation. I feel that, they're totally used to a racially diverse workforce, not just racially diverse, but also in terms of like the different generations in the workforce, different gender expressions, or what's a better way of saying that? Different expressions of gender identity, different states of physical ability, etc. There's no question that young people of Erin's generation are totally immersed in that world. My concern, however, as someone who's actually taken part in crafting some of the policies to do with diversity, equity, and inclusion, my concern is we are so focused on the exterior kind of manifestations of difference that we have a very superficial understanding of what diversity is. It's all about the surface, all about, skin color, or what gender you are, or whether you have an able body, etc., etc. And it's all on the surface. And there isn't this kind of understanding that diversity actually goes deeper than that. It also embraces a diversity in terms of viewpoint, a diversity in terms of experience, and also within that diversity, an effort to achieve a kind of commonality or a universality, a sense that we are, in spite of our differences, fundamentally human, right? I gave you the example of my work with the IT company here in Kitchener-Waterloo. I actually, as a content writer, I took part in a project which was designed to develop an e-learning module on diversity, equity, inclusion, right? We basically brainstormed ideas, we looked at various resources, and then we produced the content for this e-learning module on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And of course, what guided us was the very laudable notion of achieving equality, fairness, tolerance, embracing difference and diversity. We were guided by these very laudable notions. And of course, the IT company that we produced this e-learning module for is at the forefront of, being a very progressive company, a very ethically responsible company, etc., etc. However, as I participated in this project of producing this e-learning module, and which reflected the company's policy on this issue, I found I had a certain ambivalence about the materials that were being produced. Why? Well, because I feel in mapping out all of these procedures or ideas about, the correct viewpoints on gender, on race, on physical ability, on different gender identities, etc. We were less writing out rules of engagement than we were working out kind of almost dogmatic fixed ideas about what these different areas of human experience and identity were. So, for example, when we talk about race, I found myself, as I was looking at the materials we were producing, there was a sense in which they were talking about, say, Black people, and they had a special section on Black people, and they listed all the historical oppression, slavery, etc., etc. But I felt it was almost as if they were creating a vision of Black identity which was focused around oppression, right? Mm-hmm. And that was it. That was the essence of what Black identity was, right? And the same thing could be applied, say, to when they were crafting the material on, say, women in the workforce and gender. And so my concern was, you create crafting these policies, they become less about equal opportunity, diversity, real diversity in terms of experience and viewpoint, than kind of fixing these very rigid understandings of what these different types of group identities are, right?
Okay, I'm going to stop you there because I want Aaron to voice his thoughts now, because that was just amazing. I'm just like mesmerized listening to you, Dennis. Isn't he amazing? So this may change your thought process then, Aaron, from what you've experienced at college and what you've maybe, the workshops. Maybe, I know at the moment you've got your own business, but I mean, say you hire lots of people in the future, will it just impact your thinking about the policies, procedures, and the way you go around it, do you think?
Yeah, for sure. I think that making sure that diversity is something that I include into my business and with my organizational structure is something I'll probably still do. And I feel like the underlying value behind it is having respect for your employees, for each other. And I think that's where it stems from. It's just, yes, people are going to be categorized in different groups, but it's not about putting them in that group. It's just that's just what a little small part that makes up like a whole person, right? And being able to look at someone and being like, we're not like all different. We're not all the same. We're different in our own ways, but we all have something to bring into the environment or to the work environment. I think that's kind of where a lot of people don't really understand is they just try to be like everyone's the same and kind of thing. But
well, everybody's not the same. But I think what Dennis is putting over to me, I don't know about you, is basically this is a very important topic. This is something we should do because I know that, in my mom's day, Irish people were not accepted in the town where I lived. And there was a lot of like backlash and nasty stuff going on. And so it wasn't because they were Irish people, believe it or not. It was because, they were taking the jobs from the people who lived in Birmingham. That would not be allowed today. People shouldn't say that. But from my perspective, I like what you've said, Aaron. We should respect each other. We should respect each other's cultures. But from what Dennis was saying, where the oppression, comes into it, obviously it should be discussed because maybe there's bullying in the workplace, I don't know. But bullying happens to everybody, doesn't it, Dennis? Whatever race or colour or religion we are, bullying can happen in the workplace. So, again, that has to be looked at as well, doesn't it? Whatever colour you are, I mean.
Absolutely, yeah. And the thing is, everyone can bully. Everyone is capable of being a bully or being an oppressor. What I find sometimes with the articulation of many of these diversity, equity, and inclusion policies, there is this kind of implicit understanding that only certain groups are capable of being intolerant or being prejudiced or being bullies or oppressors. And it's almost as if they've divided people into, or the populations into two different groups, right? The oppressors and the oppressed. And I don't think that that's often very helpful or very productive and constructive. And going back to Aaron's point, Aaron was saying that, everyone is different, everyone has a different experience, whatever. But the thing is, that in my day, that used to be a given. And the kind of like the goal of these kinds of policies of equity, equality, and inclusion was to make create the existence of a level playing field so that everyone got a fair chance. But now I think it's almost about kind of fossilizing these ideas of group identities to the point where your group identity is almost more important than your belonging to like a wider kind of sense of human belonging, right? Or wider commonality. You could say universal, a certain universal vision of humanity. There are some divisive ideas in some of these policies, unfortunately, and we really have to try and be a little bit more critical and a little bit more understanding of what true diversity is, instead of this very simplistic, very superficial notion of diversity being based on skin color or what your gender is or what your sexual preference is. It goes much deeper than that.
It's really cool. And Aaron, I mean, your nan, I believe, lives in Spain. Is it Spain?
Mexico.
Sorry, my angel. So are you seen as, different and have to be treated differently because of your heritage? Is that a part of what people are doing to be careful that we don't offend anyone?
Yeah, I think that my ethnicity is something that people kind of think about when they're trying to maybe say a joke or something. They either bring it up or they don't. I know I had a bad experience in high school. I had a teacher say something that was like inappropriate at the time, and then I told my mom. I didn't think it was a big deal. I just came home. I'm like, "Hey, Mom, everyone was laughing at me in class because my teacher said that made a joke and she got really mad. So she actually wrote a letter to the principal, and she got in a lot of trouble for it."
I'm with your mum on that. Yeah, I'm with your mum on that one. The thing is, we can all get offended about certain things, but in your case, Aaron, you actually did feel bad. You felt like everybody in the class were laughing at you. So the teacher was different, and I'd have done exactly what your mum did. But again, when you enter the workplace, or your friends and brother and everybody from college enters the workplace, I think you are prepared in some way, and so does Dennis, for the the culture shock, the culture change, and this acceptance, and what you call people, what you don't call people, how you treat women, how you treat men. You prepare for it. But I think, Dennis, it will keep on changing, and I'm not sure whether it's changing the right way. I don't know whether it's going to become more of I'm quite simple, I think, in my ways. I don't ask for a lot. I'm a bit like Erin in the fact that I respect people. I trust people. I give what I get. If you treat me nicely, I'll treat you nicely. But I'm not going to, be mean to you if you don't. I'll just say, stay out of my way. And I hope that this is a part of, the culture in the future, the diversity inclusion, where we all accept each other, respect each other's identities, cultures, religions, sexual, whatever you want to call it, But on another hand, I don't think people should have a label. Does that sound rude? I don't think we should continue labeling people, because how can we accept it and part of the group, like you said, if we're all labelled and everybody is seen as...
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. I want to go back to my own experience as the son of immigrants to the UK. And I was born in the UK, and I was the son of Caribbean immigrants, growing up in the UK in the 70s. And then I moved to Canada in the late 70s. And so from my own experience, the experience of my particular generation, the kind of barriers that we encountered, people of my generation, I would say that I would say that was full on, what you might call full on racism or intolerance. It does seem, though, that here in Canada, and also to some extent in the UK and in the US, we've kind of gotten to the stage where, and this is very laudable, of course, we've gotten to the stage where we've accepted this notion of diversity and this idea of tolerance, but it's gotten to the stage where it's become over kind of refined almost. It's almost like if we go back to say one of the icons of, say, certainly my generation, possibly of your generation, Martin Luther King. He had this notion of people being judged by the content of their characters rather than the accident of whatever skin color they were born into or the group that they were born into, that sort of thing. But it now seems that we've advanced so far along this kind of road of being open and accepting of everything and emphasizing difference that it's almost as if we're being invited to identify primarily with group identities rather than this universal sense of belonging to all, to the human race, belonging to having a sense of commonality with people of whatever background, right? And so that I feel is a little bit disturbing.
I can relate to that, but I'd be interested in what Aaron thinks about that, because obviously you can disagree with us. You're a different generation. You know, I wonder if you think that Martin Luther King had the right idea and we've kind of gone off base a little bit.
No, I definitely think he had the right idea. I think the way maybe there's a sense of over censorship kind of happening right now. And then growing up in that, just things that would normally be okay, we just couldn't. For example, I know a big thing was for females, they couldn't wear spaghetti string. Like they always did that, right? And the teacher would call them out. And I always thought that was unfair because like they should be able to wear kind of what they want to wear as long as it's not anything like that's really bad. Right? But I think stuff like that, I just really got frustrated because it kind of made us feel like every little thing that we were doing was being controlled. And I don't know how you guys feel about that. I know going online, for example, if you go on TikTok now, they censor a lot of the things that are there, even though it's not that bad. Like it's not bad. It's just different.
I agree with you. Yeah, definitely, I agree with you. But the thing is, Aaron, they often censor with the best intentions. That's what's so disturbing.
This is an amazing conversation. I'm so glad we invited you on. Do you want to leave us with a little, maybe bit of advice for the future workforce, the next generation of millionaires? Dennis, before we leave you, because we've got to end this amazing conversation. It's amazing. What advice would you give to, say, people leaving college, university, and entering the different workplaces, how to deal with this if they're feeling a bit confused or overwhelmed?
Well, I would suggest that, just remember that Canada is a tolerant country, and it is a country built from people of diverse backgrounds. And they do have a role in shaping what Canada will become in the future. And just like remember to be guided by basic human decency instead of like these kind of dogmatic rules on what should be said and what should be done. Be guided by basic human decency. One of the basic, most universal rules is do unto others as you would have others do unto you.
What better way to say thank you to you, Dennis? That's amazing, isn't it, Aaron?
Yeah, I couldn't have said any better than that.
But we were listening to you with intent. I know we were, Aaron and I were listening to you because we know you've got a lot of experience in this, and you talk so nicely. You put it over so nicely. You've been a wonderful guest. We want to thank you. And sadly, we have to leave the conversation now. So thank you, Dennis. It's been lovely to see you. And I'm going to say goodbye from me.
And I'm going to say goodbye from me as well. And to any of our listeners that are listening or viewing us on YouTube, just make sure to subscribe and share our podcast with your friends that are in university, college, or just if they want to get into the workplace. We also talk about all those different topics, as well as check us out on Instagram at the Next Gen Business Podcast, as well as I believe we have a Apple podcast and the YouTube channel is the same name. So for anyone that's viewing us or listening to us, don't forget to subscribe.
Thanks for listening. Check us out at www.nextgenbusinesspodcast.com.